the news of Epy Kusnandar's passing has brought a profound wave of sadness to the public, especially to those who had followed his work, his journey, and his presence in the Indonesian entertainment world. His death on December 3, 2025, at the age of 61, not only marked the end of a career filled with memorable characters and artistic dedication, but also resurfaced an old, tender wish he had shared long before this moment came, a wish to be taken back to his hometown of Garut and laid to rest near his mother's grave. For many, this wish feels like a gentle echo of a message he once left behind. A message that now resonates much deeper because of the circumstances and the memories he created during his lifetime. When people revisit the moment he said it, especially in the interview session related to his horror film After All, it feels as though a part of him had already prepared his heart for this eventual journey. He had spoken so openly, so calmly, and with such sincerity about wanting to go home. And those who heard him remember that moment with a different kind of heaviness now. What once sounded like a simple sentiment has transformed into a final testament. During the interview in which he talked about After Tolo, Epy was discussing his role as Hadi, a father who dies and returns as a living corpse. It was a character steeped in emotional struggles, someone caught between life and death, existence and absence, presence and memory. While diving into the difficulty of portraying such a layered role, he allowed himself to wander into thoughts about mortality, unresolved family matters, and the quiet, personal fears that people often keep hidden. These reflections are what made him bring up his own wishes about burial. Wishes that he spoke with a warmth that struck those present. It was not said as promotional material for the film, nor as a humorous aside. He specifically emphasized that he was not joking. Those who were in the room at that time remember the way he leaned back, the way he exhaled slowly, and the way his tone shifted as he admitted that when his time came, he truly wanted to be buried in Garut. He didn't say it to dramatize anything, nor to create an emotional effect. Instead, it came out naturally, as if the topic of his character's death had opened a quiet door inside him that had been closed for a long time. He spoke of longing, an inner longing that many people feel but rarely say aloud. For him, Garut was not just a place of origin, it was the landscape of his childhood, the atmosphere that shaped him, the air he breathed during the most formative years of his life. It was where he felt rooted, anchored, and connected. Most of all, it was where his mother rested. And the thought of being close to her again after life ended seemed to give him comfort. His voice, according to the people who were present, softened when he mentioned his mother. There was a gentleness in his expression, perhaps even a hint of wistfulness, as though simply saying her name or imagining her presence brought him back to a place of innocence and safety. He told them that Garut remained the best place to return to, the best place to rest, in addition to wanting to be near his mother. He also shared another vulnerable wish. He hoped that his siblings would stay united or become closer than they were. He expressed that he wished for peace among his family members, especially as time continued to move and life's uncertainties only grew heavier. It was touching, the way he framed the concept of gathering even through death. For him, the idea that his passing could bring his family together, even momentarily, was something he spoke about with acceptance and a kind of bittersweet optimism. He imagined that if he were brought back to Garut, perhaps those who had drifted apart would reunite, talk again, share memories, and find a sense of harmony. His tone during that part of the interview wasn't sorrowful. Rather, it carried a kind of peaceful acceptance, like someone who had reflected on the idea of death, not with fear but with understanding. Playing a living corpse in After Tolo had a strong impact on him, more than casual audiences might have understood. Portraying a man who dies and returns to finish what life left incomplete forced him to face the emotional weight embedded in the story. The role wasn't physically easy either. There were scenes requiring him to move unnaturally, hold his breath, or stiffen his body so he could convincingly embody a corpse brought back to life. But for Epy, it wasn't the physicality that affected him the most. What struck him deeply was the symbolic aspect of the performance. The way death was depicted not as a final endpoint, but as a threshold between what was resolved and what was not. He described the experience of playing a dead person who must live as emotionally challenging because it required entering a psychological state of unfinished business, lingering attachment, and spiritual unrest. This role triggered something introspective in him. It made him think about unresolved matters in his own life, including the emotional gaps within his family, personal memories he hadn't spoken about in years, and the fears he carried quietly in his heart. After filming certain scenes, he reportedly spent some time alone, as though he needed space to detach himself from the emotional weight of the character. Crew members noticed that he was quieter during the production of some scenes, though he remained professional and cooperative. His silence was not one of burden but one of contemplation. When asked, he would smile softly and say, "The role made him think." And it was during these contemplations that he began to speak more openly about personal matters, including death and his own funeral wishes, not in a morbid or dramatic way, but in a grounded, honest manner, like someone who had simply accepted that death was part of life and that preparing one's heart for it was natural. His reflections from that time, which seemed heartfelt and thoughtful, now echo in the public consciousness because the moment he spoke about wanting to be buried in Garut feels like a message he had unknowingly prepared. Now that he has passed, people revisit his words with a different weight. They remember how he said that Garut was home, that being buried there was the deepest expression of returning to his roots, and that being near his mother again would bring him peace. For those who loved him, fans, colleagues, and family, these words have become a gentle reminder of the sincerity with which he lived his life. His wish was not extravagant or complicated, it was simple, grounded, and filled with love. As the news of his passing spread, many people began revisiting old interviews, including the one where he talked about after Talel. Watching it now brings a sense of poignancy. His smile in the video looks warmer, his tone more thoughtful, and his expressions even more meaningful. Some viewers commented that it was as though he had unknowingly prepared a farewell message. Others said they felt comforted that he had expressed his wish openly because it meant that those who loved him were aware of what he wanted most. It brought a sense of clarity amid the sorrow. His colleagues recalled the way he approached his work with sincerity, especially in the later part of his career. They spoke of how he had matured not only as an actor but as a person. His honesty in discussing topics like death, regret, and family made a lasting impression on those around him. He wasn't someone who hid behind the glamour of the entertainment industry. He carried his vulnerabilities with grace, and when he decided to speak about them, he did so with authenticity. Many said that was what made him so relatable to the public, what gave his characters such emotional depth, and what made audiences cherish him beyond just performance. They connected to him because he felt real, reflecting on his personal journey. One can see that his wish to be buried near his mother was rooted in deep emotional memory. In many interviews, even outside of the After Talil discussion, he had spoken warmly of his upbringing in Garut. He once mentioned walking through rice fields as a child, breathing the crisp air of the hills, and listening to the quiet rhythms of village life. These memories seemed to shape his attachment to Garut, making it more than just a geographic location. It was a place that held the essence of his identity. Garut was where he learned values from his parents, discovered his early interests in performing arts, and developed the resilience that carried him through life's challenges. These things cannot be separated from the person he became.